Spectrovision Radio.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs. I'm Mallory, and I'm here with my friends Tom and Jordan. And this is the podcast where we talk about pretty much everything in the universe that is not quite buttoned up, should we say? But is absolutely occurring and is absolutely worth talking about. So let's get into it.
Not quite buttoned up. Yeah. Screw you, materialists. Okay. So we're going to start off by, we grabbed some headlines, and the first one we're going to talk about is that researchers at the University of Surrey have a new study in scientific reports which seems to suggest that time at the quantum level might not be a one-way street. These guys found evidence that quantum systems can evolve in both directions, meaning time could go backward just as naturally as it goes forward. The researchers discovered that when applying certain quantum equations correctly, the math works perfectly fine, regardless of which direction in time you go. I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts about whether or not what they're talking about is just more Big Bang style math, or if it's actually something substantial.
I can't comment with respect to their protocols or whatever, but this doesn't surprise me at all because I think logically it's been proven that linear time does not exist a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
And the summary for me, if I can do it correctly, is that you can define the past pretty easily. You can say that the future, if you're doing a logic problem, something that hasn't happened yet, whatever, that kind of like cop out. But like you can never nail the present down because it's never the same. It's always moving into the past. And therefore you cannot come up with any sort of like logical definition of time, and therefore time is not real. Like when my daughter was like 3, I was feeding her lunch in the kitchen and she sat on this like high stool at the counter and she said, "I fall down and hit my head." And I was like, "No, you didn't. You're fine. You didn't hit your head." She was insistent, and the 3-year-old never stays on the same topic for any length of time. But during that lunch, she kept saying several times, "I fall down and I hit my head." And I was like, "I promise you, you did not fall down and hit your head." We go shopping and we come home and I'm putting on dinner and she tilts back in the stool and falls down and hits her head. And I was like, "You told me." I was just operating in the wrong system, As individuals, we grow into this illusion of linear time as a way of processing information, but I don't think that's how things really are. I lived in a house where every day a woman in a long dress and a white bonnet would walk counterclockwise around the house the same way, several times a day. And I was like, that's a residual haunting, which means that that's some artifact of time. Anyway, I mean, aren't ghosts more easily explained if you think of time as a flat circle?
Yeah, I am not even sure where to begin other than I'm a complete layman when it comes to anything about quantum anything.
Me
but
too.
I wonder about how we access this. Like, what is it about our framing of it that is so limiting that makes it impossible for us to be able to access what your daughter was accessing? Or Tom, just as a person who's experienced hauntings, residual or otherwise, do you feel you've reached a different plane in order to be able to experience time in a different way?
Do you know what made me experience time in a different way? Is being a musician. Because music to me is a manipulation of time. Listening to Alan Watts and or meditating and understanding that all we have available to us is the eternal present, right? So if you live in the past, it's because you're regretting something. If you live in the future, it's because you're anxious about something. And we're really trained to do that and not be present with ourselves, not be present with each other. But that is all we've got, right? And then if you think about that, as smarter people than me have done, you say, oh, the past is a mental construct. The future is a mental construct. I can think about my friend. I can imagine or remember of time meeting my friend on the street, but my friend is not there, right? I can go back there. But that is something that I'm engaged in the present moment, is remembering meeting my friend on the street. Does that make sense?
I've been hearing a lot of theories lately about how the brain may be more of a filter for reality than a gatherer of information and conveyor of reality, meaning reality is this sort of extremely complex, rich, impossibly huge thing that we can't possibly hope to navigate through unless we could focus our very, very limited attention in on it in certain ways. Time, I feel like, might be another one of those algorithms that our brain runs to try to limit our perception of reality in useful ways. Because part of me thinks like we seem to have a lot of evidence that time can go both directions in a lot of cases. I know that there's a lot of psi research that suggests this, but it's not useful to try to live in both directions. Like to stay present, you have to let go of the past, stop worrying about the future, etc. But you also have to have some sense of causality. I think it would be impossible to even get through the day if we couldn't depend on fundamental things like doing one thing causes another thing later. You know, if you're not confident that like when you get up and walk over to the light switch and turn it on, the light will turn on, then you're sort of paralyzed. So I think our brains really aren't hardwired to handle quantum realities, but that doesn't dictate what is actually true or real, which is that I think, yeah, time is a construct.
Can I quote one of my favorite books?
No, not allowed to quote books on the
All right,
podcast.
I'm just gonna tap out now. This is from Mal. Give me permission.
I
give
do
you
it.
permission.
Thank you.
You're allowed.
This is the Kybalion, which is an esoteric text from like 1903, and it has 7 principles, and this is the 4th principle, the principle of polarity. I think this is applicable to what we're talking about with this quantum time thing. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The idea that all things are identical in nature but different in degree, you're talking about time. Past and future are identical in nature but different in degree. The temperature outside is identical in nature but different in degree, depending on whether it's high summer or bitter winter. Do you know what I'm saying?
Thinking about it in terms of the way that we actually live our lives, it can be spiritually useful to consider time being a two-directional thing, but it's also useful to think about it maybe in the sense of the fact that our brains have given us this framing of moving sort of in one direction, that this is how we do. We go this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then this thing, which allows us to do things like math, is the way that we are allowed to participate in the creation of the universe. Because you could think of things as everything everywhere already exists, or you could think that we don't really understand how the universe unfolds in creation. We don't really understand it to a full and comprehensive way. But what we do understand is that in our own lives, when we do a thing, something happens. And when we do something else happens. And that, I think there is something divinely important about that. But it is not and should not be, and we should not consider it as limiting the whole of creation. All we are doing is sort of making our marks in the universe.
I'm just going to speak for any listener who might be feeling this way. I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't understand how a person operates with this information. I understand the concept of no past and no future. I understand what it means to be fully present. I even understand the idea that a paradox seems like the most true thing that can exist. But does the presence of this article indicate that scientists are hoping to manipulate this somehow? That we're actually practically supposed to do something with this somehow?
I don't think so. I think in this article specifically, I think that they're just answering fun math puzzles. And they're saying like, what weird thing happens at really small scales that doesn't apply at all to our actual lives? And I think that there is sort of application, but I think it's more philosophical application. I think depending on the life that you're talking about, I think that there are people for whom this kind of thing may matter. I think that that's not true for most people. And I think that like the idea of like, I can't do this doesn't make sense to me is fine. Because I don't think that the principle of bidirectional time is useful to a normal human life, which is why our brains filter it out. Like the filter wouldn't exist if there was something really critical and useful for us in just the sort of like traditional management of a human life, which is to, go get some food and have some relationships and work and play and live and die. And it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's like what living is for. And so I think that like getting caught up in this stuff, it's like if you're a scientist, if you're a researcher at Surrey University or wherever, that's great. Do it. Go get into the papers, dig into the math, see what happens at really small, tiny quantum scales, and publish it and teach us all how to be a little more open-minded and be filled with wonder. Great. But like, I'm not going to be using bidirectional time anytime soon. Maybe that's the wrong way of framing it.
You can't be sure.
Yeah.
You can't be sure.
I already have, maybe. Yeah. I'm using it right now. Can you see me? Guys,
Me
I'm living in
too.
both directions.
We got to
I'm
do
not
the intro
wearing pants
again.
under this screen, and I'm using bidirectional time.
I'm so upset. I'm beside myself.
Mel, this would be the perfect time for Mel to say, welcome to the show, everyone.
What I love is Mal's like, I can't do this, and then goes on to explain precisely how she's doing it. I can live
Yes.
I understand the present moment. And I'm like, you're great. You're doing great. This is great.
Yeah.
I guess I have a secret wonder, just as a Mallory who is not, I'm not citing any article, about people who might be having experiences through time that are different from what I'm experiencing. I'm curious about people who may have possibly temporal gifts. I have no idea. I don't really like to think that this is something I'll never access, or that nobody is accessing. If it exists, it's kind of exciting to think about how and when we might access it. And if it means that we have to move into a different plane, perhaps through death or some other kind of obliteration, then I guess that might be coming.
You meditate, right? We were talking about it off air. And so do you have a different perception of time or any perception of time when you're in the meditative state?
I mean, I would definitely say that when I feel like there's this quote. I think it's Rumi. Are you guys familiar with this? Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about.
That'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Like the world is too beautiful to really comprehend when you get to that space. And it does feel like there's a type of timelessness when you arrive in the field beyond right doing and wrongdoing. And maybe we could add here beyond up and down, beyond high and low. We're talking about a place beyond all of these poles. And I guess we exist there. But can I function there? I mean, perhaps there are Buddhas on the planet who can do it, who feel that they're constantly in a state of timelessness and they're walking on some kind of beam of light all the time. But I haven't reached that point.
I wonder the extent to which when one is fully present and participating in the eternal present, to the extent to which one does escape the confines of past and future. And anything that we would consider some sort of arrow or linear, chronology. The other thing I'll say is that as a writer, the best thing about linear time is that it's such a great rhetorical device. Chronology is such a great frame to put around or to tell a story, right? Telling stories. If you're going to tell a story, it's fucking handy as shit to say like this and then that.
You could think of chronological time as a medium of art. As we live our lives, we are artists. And if you could consider your life as a work of art composed via the framing of chronological time. I have a good segue for you to tell us about another causal anomaly. Tom, I think, has our next story.
Well, I would with the second I can pull it up, but nothing is. Why are you staring at me? What's going on?
Tom's talking to a dog.
Yeah,
I'm talking to two
in case
dogs.
this makes the cut. We're staring at him.
Oh, hey, Bill.
He's not yelling at us.
No, I'm not yelling at you. I don't know why, but for some reason, hold on. Okay. This is from Coast to Coast with George Newry. It's in the form of a question. Paranormal activity filmed at Wyoming jail? A peculiar piece of footage from a Wyoming jail shows possible paranormal activity in the form of a soda can eerily moving on its own. The spooky scene was shared on social media late last month by the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office, which marveled that their staff, quote, are used to unexpected moments on the job, but not like this. In the footage, a deputy can be seen sitting at the detention center's booking desk when his work is interrupted by, quote, a soda can that suddenly and inexplicably slid several inches across the table toward him. The officer's attention is immediately drawn to the weird movement as he stares down at the beverage, seemingly wondering what had just happened. Did you guys watch this?
I did watch it. And my
I want to
first
look it up right now.
my first thought while Mallory looks it up and watches it is that this probably is just pooling condensation around the bottom rim of a can. Like broken surface tension, maybe a slight pressure differential between the little, pocket of air underneath the can and outside the can or whatever. But what if it's not? I love the idea of this sort of mundane poltergeist. Like, if I was a ghost, this is 100% something I'd do. If you believe in ghosts, which I think I maybe sort of do, you should be shocked that this sort of thing doesn't happen more often. It, makes no sense to me that it doesn't. Or maybe, lots of ghosts are trying to do this kind of thing, but it's actually really hard, and most ghosts are bad at it. In this instance, all we're seeing is just, one ghost flexing on his peers. Anyway, I love this. I love this. I want way more videos of this kind of thing.
How would the condensation do it, Jordan? I'm seeing it now. It's just there's a little bit of pressure underneath the can that's sort of creating a little bit of a air bubble.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine a can sitting on a table and condensation is kind of falling down the can and pooling around the bottom rim of the can, but then it creates a little bit of a pressure differential between that little pocket of air and then the outside of the can. And then at one point, if you've got a very thin layer of water beneath the can, you're looking at basically a frictionless surface. So it wouldn't take much to just have it be whoops, and then just sort of slide across the table a little bit. But how quickly does it slide? Which is exactly what we see.
How quickly?
Not very quickly.
In the description that I saw, it said suddenly.
I'm doing it with my hand. It's like this. It's like this.
Yeah.
Also, how full is the can? Does it say? Because if that's a full can, I don't believe the condensation could do that.
Also, is the table tilted? Because it wouldn't move at all, regardless of how much water is in it, unless it had something that initiated that force that would move it in that direction, right? So if someone pushed it, or there's a blast of air, or gravity itself was working on it.
Honestly, I think that there's a lot of very prosaic explanations that could work.
Absolutely,
here.
sure.
I don't want any of them to be true.
Well, that's what we have to be careful about, right? That, of course, we don't want it to be true. Of course, we want it to be a poltergeist. I think that most people feel that way.
Evidentiary proof is never going to work, right? I mean, it can for some people, but there is no ghost picture or video that is ever going to prove to anyone who is disinclined to believe. It's either too good to be true, or it's manipulated, or it's a hoax. And God knows these days anything can be hoax. So the question is whether or not,
sure,
we as individuals believe that shit can move on its own. I absolutely 100% do. But I also know that there are, physics. There are physics. Like condensation and gravity and things where stuff appears to move on its own, but there are physics here. Physics has entered the chat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of always in the chat.
It's all
your average high school science teacher that does magic in front of his class would have been burned as a witch 300 years ago.
Yeah.
So
for combining chemicals that puff up and do stupid things. Oh, there's so much present here every time I come up against a story like this. I desperately want it to be true. I also wish I knew every explanation, and there's almost never enough. There's no investigators most of the time. The proper type of investigators, that's what I crave. A couple weeks ago when I was looking up some stuff about cryptids, there was a guy who went around and was really trying to find evidence of animals drained from their blood from the Chupacabra sightings.
Right.
And he couldn't find any evidence of that.
Couldn't find it.
You know? But how often are people right on the case of the Pepsi poltergeist? You know what I mean? The chances of us being able, it kind of forces us to stay open with several questions, maybe wondering if we're not even asking the right one. And there's something beneficial about that, but it's frustrating to never quite feel like we have the funding, I don't know, resources.
Attention, frankly. There's just not enough people.
Yes. Who would pay to have people investigate this Pepsi can? I
It'd be a
would.
different kind of world. Yeah.
I would subscribe to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's our goal. Maybe our goal as a show is to get big enough and well funded enough that we can send our own field investigators to like every.
Don't make me cry. Wait, Lord, no? Why not, Tom?
Don't put me in the field. I really.
No, you don't have to go. You don't have to go. We'll hire
okay.
some.
I'll be the
we'll
guy.
hire someone.
I'll
We'll
be the
hire
guy, monitoring you through the system, going like, "Oh no, Mal's being attacked by flying Pepsi cans.
Yes.
This is awful."
Be our guy in the chair.
I'll be the guy in the
And
chair.
I can finally.
Enhance.
Yeah, I can finally.
I
have
desperately,
Do a
just for the sake, just for the mundane comedy of it, I want to see an interview with the guy who saw the can move. I just want to see like a way too long interview where it's just like there's nothing else to say, but they keep asking questions and he keeps trying to figure out something else to say about this very tiny experience.
What did you feel?
The can moved.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was just, I was just sitting there doing my work and, at one point I looked over and it had moved and I was just looking at it and I didn't know what to think.
The mundane.
And then there's another question.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Pretty much all the information. I said it in that previous sentence, but I did look over at it.
Yeah,
and it
just
had
to
moved.
recap.
And
I was there and it happened.
What did you do earlier that day? What were you working on? What was the nature of your work that day? Just like
mostly drinking that Pepsi.
Yeah. Did the
The
donut
aforementioned Pepsi.
checking Facebook, I was
Did the donut move?
Are your grandparents still alive?
My gosh.
I think we should put you in the field, Jordan, because my friend Scott Philbrook from Astonishing Legends was, when he started the show, as he says himself, was pretty skeptical about these types of phenomena. And then a few years into the program, they visited on a whim. Basically, they were in the same town doing something else, and they visited the Sally House in Kansas, notoriously haunted. And they had all kinds of stuff happening to them and their crew. And Scott was changed thereby. They caught this really quite upsetting EVP.
That's the exact kind of story that I want to hear on
absolutely.
this show.
And he's told the tale before. It's become something of a, cliche with them, but
of course.
It's great.
Of course. But not to us, not on our show.
No,
not on God's Ghosts and UFOs, Tom.
I would hope that weirder shit is happening in Wyoming. Seriously, like flying cow skulls or something. Come on. Sliding.
Give me something.
Sliding
It has
Pepsi
to
cans.
be.
Come on, people. Up your game.
Yeah.
I would interview the Pepsi can guy if we could.
I would totally.
I would interview the Pepsi can.
That seems like a pretty safe zone for me. That's good for the memes.
It's very fun.
I don't know that I want to go to the Sally House and have my entire worldview changed by some disturbing experiences, but I'll tell you what, I can sit down with that guy next to the Pepsi can for an hour.
That's my point. My ass is, I'm not going in no Sally House.
Same.
No.
I don't even want to go to what's that ranch called? The one in
Skinwalker?
Utah? The
Skinwalker.
I don't want to go there.
No, you don't.
I don't want to go there.
That
I've heard
shit's
nothing that
fucked
makes
up.
me think I want to go there.
No,
yeah.
shit's fucked up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
and
don't
the
wanna
people
go.
who are like, either I want to, take my seat on a ticketed ride, it's just a really dumb way of approaching it, or I need something proven to me, is probably making you vulnerable to some type of, phenomenological dope slap. Of like, oh, you want you want something? Pow!
Phenomenological dope slap.
Dope
Yeah.
slap.
Give it to me.
Right in the back of the head, jackass.
So
It's not
Tom,
fucking parlor trick.
based on your experiences, what do you think is the right posture to take around this sort of, or not that there's a right, but what is your recommended posture to take toward these sorts of things?
Open-minded skepticism. I think that being in a place of not knowing is where we can gain understanding, right? If you know Pepsi cans don't move on their own, then you're not going to be open to any insight, right? Necessarily. If you say, that's odd, normally they don't, I wonder what this is, could be this, that, or the other, and then you exist on a spectrum of, everything exists on a spectrum of believability, right? But when you don't know, you are in a place of inclusivity instead of exclusivity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You can go on the other side and be too credulous too, and just go like everything is a whatever. Everything is a soda can poltergeist or whatever.
Everything's
Clearly
happening.
It's not.
All of it's happening.
All that, and it has meaning. Lots of meaning for me.
Right.
Yeah. Drink more Pepsi. Anyway.
I think this is a pretty good place to.
Yeah. Fuck
escape
you
this
guys. I
episode.
gotta go.
That's it for now. We'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to our Substack. If you want to get in touch now or anytime in the future, that's the place to do it. Just head over to godsghostsufos.com or find the link in the description. All right, we'll see you soon.